So by this point of the video, you've probably cleaned up your aluminum parts and cleaned up the brass parts as well. There's one last step that we need to do to complete the power cylinder, and that is to roll burnish this this inside surface right here. And we're going to do that with a roll burnisher. And so this is a roller burnisher. It is actually a forming tool, so there's ridges on the inside of this surface that are somewhat rough. You may feel this maybe with your pinky, and it feels smooth, but it's actually a board surface is not as smooth as we need it to be to fit, to have a nice sliding fit between this piston and this cylinder. So we're going to sort of flatten down those ridges that are on the inside of this diameter hole, and with these rollers here. And so these are kind of just steel, I think they're bearings, to be honest, that flatten down those ridges. And we're going to do that on a TL1 lathe. We're also going to need some lubricating oil right here, and we'll also need the book. So let's take these materials here. You also may need a clean rag, so no sort of metal shavings or anything like that in the rag, within the rag. So this is a brand new rag, so that's that. So I'm going to take these over to the machine that we're going to use. So this is the TL1 lathe that we are going to use in this process. So I'll just grab the book here as well, and the lubricating oil. So the first thing to do is turn on the machine. And to do that, you have to turn the power on to the back of the machine. So we'll make sure it's in the on position. And we're going to press the power on button. The software loads in the machine. And once we do this, we'll follow the instructions here. And so it says check to make sure that the machine is free of obstructions. So I don't see any obstructions on the track here specifically. Maybe this hose is kind of in the way. And we are going to make sure that the tailstock is in the far right position. Okay, so that is as far as the tailstock goes in this direction. So that is perfect right there at the end of the machine. Okay. So we will press reset and power up restart. And we get this signal saying the door is open. And the only door that I see is this door right here. And that's closed, so it must mean something else. And really for this machine, it's all open, and so part of the door is this trigger switch that is found on the side of the machine. So you have to press this button and hold it. And we'll press the power up restart button. And now you see that it's running. And these dials are turning automatically. And so this is a bit of a slow process, but you can see how the machine works at the same time. So the Z position is moving back, or the X position is moving back, and now the Z position is moving backwards. So this whole tool holder is going to move towards the tailstock. And once this running symbol disappears, then you know that the power up restart is complete. So this is a pinch point right here. Make sure you do not have your hand or clothing or any other body part in right there. That could pinch. Okay, so we have now successfully done a power up restart. So I can release the button at this point, and the next part of the book says to press right to enter the manual mode. Then we'll go into handle jog and pick a feed rate. So what we want to do is move this out of the way, because eventually we want the tailstock right here. Okay, so I'm going to move this kind of inside this area here. And this is like a folder system. I can press these arrow buttons to select different folders, but I want to be in the manual one. And to get into this folder, I have to press right. So now that I'm in the manual mode, which means I can move the machine manually, I'm going to press handle jog. And then it says I'm going to move the Z axis. And the Z axis is actually this way and this way. And this is my X axis. So I want to choose the Z axis. And Z negative is actually in this direction. So it says that I am moving to Z. And I'm going to choose a feed rate of 0.01. So for each increment that I move here, this is going to move in, if I move it in the negative direction, it's going to move in the negative direction. So as I move the dial in the negative direction, you'll see the machine go this way. And so I'm just moving this out of the way, and so you can stop moving it when the machine, when the tool holder is about that distance away from the chuck. Okay, so now I want to move the tailstock over. And it might be clamped. These are the clamps. There's one on this side and there's one on the back side here. But it takes a little bit of force to get it sliding forward. But I want to move it about there. Okay. Now, I'm going to put this is a Morse tapered bar right here that is going to go into the tailstock. But I want to make sure that I can read the dimension on here. So if I move this, if I rotate this, the tailstock actually starts to come out. And so I want to bring it to about the 1 inch mark. Okay. And I don't want to clamp it down. I want to leave that loose. I'm just going to move it back a little bit so that I can put this into the machine. Now there's a flat part in the tongue there on the end of the Morse taper. I want to make sure that if you put it in wrong, it won't go far enough, and it'll be always loose. And there's a little bit of a witness mark right here where it should go into the tailstock to, about that point. I'm not sure if you can see that witness mark, but that's about as far as it goes. So if I rotate it, I can line up that flat tongue with, I guess, another flat part inside here. I can't see it. Now, what I need to do is apply quite a strong impact force into the machine here. So I'm going to attempt to show you that. So I'm lining that flat tongue up, and then I'm going to pull back very quickly and sharply. And so I heard a nice good click there, and so this is actually, I'm moving the tailstock. I can actually pull this out now, and that's what I want. Okay, so the next part of the video, or the next step to do, is we're going to put this part into the chuck. So obviously there's quite a bit of space in here, and that'll just fall right through, so I need to tighten down the chuck. And I do that by taking the chuck key and I put it into the hole here, and I just tighten it down. Okay, so now it's not tight, but it is, it can be held by the 3 jaws. There are 3 jaws there. And so I'm going to make sure that the part is in the chuck completely and begin to clamp it down. And it doesn't need a lot of force, it needs a little bit of force here. So I'm just kind of turning it like that. You certainly don't need to reef on these handles, or both handles. That's not required. You just need to get it tight. Okay. Put that back there, and I'm just going to rotate this to make sure that it's centered in the jaws. And when I rotate it, it doesn't wobble around or anything like that. So I know that this is pretty straight. Okay. So what I'm going to do here is I'm actually going to lock this tailstock down, and I'm going to start rotating this at a certain RPM, and I'm going to use this handle here to move this in and out. Okay, so this is probably, the tailstock's probably a little bit further back than it should be, so I'm going to move this just to about there, and then I'm going to lock it down. And to do that, you lock it down on these handles. So those should feel tight when you press them down. Okay, so this tailstock is tight, and I can move this in and out. Okay, so I'm going to close the guard door. I'm going to adjust the light to an appropriate location and turn it on so that I can see. I forgot one step. You need to lubricate both the tool and the inside diameter. So to do that, just take your lubricating oil and pour it on there and pour it on here. So you can be quite liberal with the lubricating oil. A little more is better than a little not enough. Okay, so the next step is to press the dead man switch, or just the button on this switch here on the side of the machine, and then press 700, and then press forward. What that does is it starts spinning the chuck. And if I release the dead man switch, it stops the chuck. If I press it down again, it starts the chuck. Okay, so I want to hold this switch with my left hand and feed this with my right hand. So I'm going to do that. So I'm moving at about 1 rotation per second. You want to make sure that you go all the way through, so you should be able to see the roll burnisher on the other side of the part, and I'll show you that in just 1 minute. It's important not to let the chuck stop at this point. And you can see here that the part is through the chuck. Now, I really do not want to hit the chuck with the gray part of the roll burnishing tool. That would destroy the tool. But I would like to go maybe two revolutions further into the power cylinder. So 1 rotation, maybe not quite, just 1 rotation. And so I can see the roll burnisher has gone all the way through the power cylinder, and now I'm going to back it off at about 1 revolution per second. So I'm turning this hand wheel 1 revolution per second. So I'm going to move it out now. Okay, so the roll burnisher is backed out of the machine, and now I want to do that one more time. So I can see the roll burnisher on the other side of the power cylinder, and the gray portion of the roll burnisher is certainly not touching the chuck. That is a critical step here that we do not want to do. Okay, so now that I'll back it off. And I can release the dead man switch and then press cancel so that the chuck will not start spinning, and I can take the part out now. So I'll do that by, now this is stuck because we actually have to press reset here. And now it spins freely. Okay, so I'm going to spin it till I can see the chuck key hole. And I'm going to release the part. Now I can't quite get the part out because this is in the way, so I'm going to actually back this off now. I'm just doing that by rotating the hand wheel. So now I can probably get the part out, and at this point you should see a very clean part, and we can use the rag to clean it out. So now that is a much smoother part than we had before. I don't see any ridges on this material. Sometimes if you don't bring the roll burnisher far enough into the part, you'll see a little ridge, a circular ridge on the inside of the shaft, or the hole. And you can try and roll burnish it out, but typically I've seen poor results with that, and basically you have to chuck the part, unfortunately. But this is a good part. I don't see any ridges there, so that's good. So finally, we just have to turn off the machine, and we've completed this step. So I'll loosen these off, both sides. I'll bring the tailstock all the way back to the end of the machine there. And then I can't pull this out. No matter how much force I pull on this, I can't get it out. But if I back this off all the way back here, I can. It'll kick this roll burnisher up. So I'll just bring that back into the machine there by turning the hand wheel. And now this is loose. Alright, so this concludes the roll burnishing of the power cylinder.